Jody, distinguished guest, and all of Australia out in the lawn. Welcome. Welcome and good morning, or as you would say, good day. Well, Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to the White House. Welcome to the Oval Office. It's been a long time in coming.
As far as official visits to Washington go, this one, Anthony Albanese's first as Prime Minister, was as warm as they come.
Together, we've worked together to build the strength of the alliance, and I think we've actually deepened that strength.
Our alliance, I believe, has never been more important, and it's also never been stronger.
But behind the Biden administration's obvious effort to deepen and strengthen the alliance are mounting questions about America's reliability as our most important ally. That's because all is not well in Washington.
Now the House is in a complete state of paralysis.
The office of Speaker of the House is hereby declared vacant.
Almost a month ago, Kevin McCarthy lost his job as House Speaker. He was dumped by a bloc of fellow Republicans, in part for backing more military aid for Ukraine.
And there shouldn't be secret side deals
The deepening
made.
fracture in the party was then on full and chaotic display.
Meeting behind closed doors again.
Pro-Trump populists and more traditional Republicans struggled to agree on a replacement. The House ground to a halt. The dysfunction robbed Anthony Albanese of an opportunity to address a joint sitting of Congress, and it threw another obstacle in the way of legislation critical to making AUKUS a reality.
These laws have been in place for a really long time. Their goal is a laudable one, which is to make sure that we're not losing technology and critical information to bad actors. But over time, I think a lot of people, including myself, feel that they've become excessively cumbersome.
Into that military ramp-up.
Democratic Congressman Joe Courtney is one of the strongest backers of AUKUS. He represents Connecticut's 2nd District, where nuclear submarines are made. He's optimistic the legislation to allow their export to Australia will pass, but acknowledges there's still more work to do.
There's no question that the export controls, both historically and at this moment, is the one that I think is, going to require the most elbow grease.
To help grease the legislative wheel, President Biden announced more money designed to increase US production of nuclear submarines.
All right. Last week, we requested $3.4 billion in supplemental funds to boost submarine production and maintenance to meet U.S. needs and also support AUKUS. It's important that Congress move quickly.
Proponents of AUKUS are very confident Congress will pass the necessary legislation, in part because the one thing Republicans and Democrats can agree on is the threat posed by China. The Prime Minister's pitch is that AUKUS will empower Australia to step up in the Indo-Pacific. But what happens to this agreement, now the bedrock of Australia's security posture, if Donald Trump returns to power? Trump may be embroiled in multiple criminal cases, but he is still the candidate most likely to emerge as the Republican nominee. And he managed to make his presence felt, even on Anthony Albanese's biggest day yet on the world stage.
The House finally has a new speaker this morning.
After 21 days, America finally has a Speaker of the House of Representatives.
As the Prime Minister stood alongside President Biden in the Rose Garden on Wednesday, news broke that Mike Johnson, a close ally of Donald Trump and someone who spearheaded efforts to overturn the last election result, had just been elected Speaker.
Are you worried that a Speaker Johnson would again attempt to overturn the election?
No.
But some are worried. Edward Luce is the US national editor for the Financial Times.
We could have a Republican speaker who's actively colluding with Trump to try and prevent, if in the eventuality of a Biden victory being certified. Yes, that could play havoc with the American Constitution.
What does that mean for democracy in the United States?
Well, there's no roadmap for this. This has never happened, but it would be more than a constitutional crisis. That would be too mild a term to describe that.
You never tire of this, and Yeah, I remember Prime Ministers coming out of, the front door there. Look, whenever there are threats like that to democracy, they're a problem, but I think there are sufficient people in this system, and the institutions demonstrated this last time, to stand up on those issues.
Australia's former ambassador to the US, Arthur Sinodinos, has observed the Trump and Biden presidencies up close.
And at the moment, overwhelmingly, Trump is the favourite to have the Republican nomination. That's no guarantee he'll become president. In a lot of the polls, he's neck and neck with Joe Biden. I think if it was a match-up between Biden and Trump, that Biden would win it again.
Since leaving his post as ambassador in May, Sinodinos has remained in Washington. He's optimistic the Australia-US alliance will remain strong and AUKUS will survive, regardless of next year's election result.
I've seen no indication that either Donald Trump or any of the senior Republicans would want to in any way walk away from the AUKUS pact.
So AUKUS is safe, regardless?
I believe so, yes. Very much so.
Democrat Congressman Joe Courtney is less convinced.
But do you know where he would stand on AUKUS?
I haven't the slightest idea.
So how worried should Australia be about that?
Well, I mean, I think that is really one of the reasons why I am very committed to making sure that this country does not elect him president, because I think the hallmark of his administration was just the instability and the irascibility of his decision making that made all of our allies insecure. And believe me, it's not just the embassies of Australia. I mean, we hear about this from all over.
I think Trump's always been very supportive of the alliance. When I look at AUKUS, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Emma Doyle served as a Deputy Chief of Staff to Donald Trump in the White House. She says her former boss would see benefit in sticking with AUKUS. Is there any risk he'd look at it and say, well, Joe Biden did this deal, this isn't my deal, therefore I don't like it?
I don't think so. I think if he looks at it from the lens of course they want our submarines, they're the best in the world, that it would make a lot of sense to him.
If Trump is re-elected next year, the Albanese government and defence planners will hope Emma Doyle is right, because as former Ambassador Arthur Sinodinos acknowledges, there are no other options on the table. Is there a plan B?
I said when AUKUS was first put together that there's no alternative. We've got to make this work. We've got to get this done.